Hello there, my name is Pankaj Mishra. You're watching News9 Live. Well, the talk of the town, one nation, one election. Since the name cropped up last evening, there has been hectic activity in the political circles. And why not? The country is going to witness polls in several states, starting from 2023 up until the elections in 2024, the general elections, and beyond that as well. But the special session from September 18 to September 22nd, these 5 days have somehow put the spanner in the works. At least that's what the opposition has to say. Meanwhile, the centre has formed a committee led by former President Ram Nath Kovind to explore one nation, one election. This move follows the announcement of a special parliament session from September 18 to 22nd. Prime Minister Modi's strong support for simultaneous elections and Kovind's endorsement of the same in 2017 highlight the government's commitment. They argue that frequent elections strain resources and hinder development due to the model code of conduct. As the Modi government nears the end of its second term, it seeks to take a decisive action on this long debated topic. But the opposition, there have been voices of dissent, there have been voices of praise also. Let's listen in what the political parties had to say.
एक समृद्ध लोकतंत्र के लिए राजनीतिक स्थिरता अत्यंत महत्वपूर्ण है। ऐसे ही लोकतांत्रिक व्यवस्था में सरकारों की स्थिरता के साथ साथ विकास के लिए भी एक गतिमान सरकार चाहिए। और इस देश से वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन यह एक अभिनंदनीय प्रयास है। हमें ये प्रसन्नता है जानकर के कि वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन के लिए जो कमेटी बनी है, इसके अध्यक्ष पूर्व राष्ट्रपति माननीय श्री रामनाथ कोविंद जी को की अध्यक्षता में बनी है। इस अभिनव पहल के लिए मैं देश की सबसे बड़ी आबादी के राज्य उत्तर प्रदेश की जनता की ओर से आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी का हृदय से आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन ये आज की आवश्यकता है।
ये एक गुब्बारा है जो फेंका गया है जिससे कि ध्यान बांटा जा सके। असलियत ये है कि 3 कमेटियों ने पहले, चाहे वो पार्लियामेंट की स्टैंडिंग कमेटी हो, चाहे वो नीति आयोग हो और चाहे लॉ कमीशन हो, उसकी अपनी जांच दी जा चुकी है, रिपोर्ट सबमिट हो चुकी है। 2016 के बाद ये सब शगुफे हैं जो छोड़े जाते हैं।
वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन के हम समर्थक हैं, लेकिन उसकी कमेटी का गठन जिस वक्त किया गया है वो अनटाइमली है और इसका कोई पर्पस पूरा नहीं होगा। ये ध्यान बटाने की एक्सरसाइज।
All right, so we heard of volley of political members putting their point across, some supporting it, some against it. Now the question is, this particular aspect came into the news, was in the cycle since yesterday. So why are we hosting the show today? Why are we doing the show today? To understand that how easy or difficult it is to actually get this done. Is it easier said than done? Is it something that needs a very closer look, or is it जैसा श्रीनाथी जी ने कहा कि एक गुब्बारा है? What is it? What are the technicalities involved? To discuss that further, who else other than G.C. Malhotra, constitutional expert and former Secretary General of Lok Sabha, and Gautam Mukherjee, a known face on News9 Live, senior journalist, also joins us there. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for taking time out this evening on this very crucial issue. And let me begin with you, Mr. Malhotra. Help us understand, first of all, when people hear about one nation, one poll, people of my age group, they haven't seen this happening for a long time, although it has happened in the past earlier also. But what is it that the government wants to achieve, irrespective of who is in power, and how does this work?
See, in India, the first 4 elections in 1952, 57, 62 and 67 were all held simultaneously in the center and in the states. There are many countries which have presidential form of government. For example, in Philippines, Brazil, Bolivia, Colombia, Guatemala, Guyana, Honduras, they have presidential elections and their state elections, assembly elections simultaneously. Now, for the purpose of stability, for the purpose of saving finances, for the purpose of saving the services of staff, security forces, and the work of the government does not suffer, policy matters do not suffer. Hardly 2-3 years pass when they come in the election modes, and in a year 5 to 7 assembly elections are held. So even at the center, when the assembly elections are held, the center also goes in a election mode, and therefore the stability of governance is not there. Therefore, one nation, one election not only would lead to stability, not only would save the finances, not only would save the services of the staff, but the policy paralysis will also not be there. In 5 years, in the beginning, the mode of governance would be known, and at the end of the 5 years, the report card can be seen.
Right.
Therefore, though some of the members may not be favoring this, but largely many of the parties and members and experts and even the election commission, and it was started by L.K. Advani and Pranab Mukherjee, the former president, also propagated this. Therefore, pros are more than the cons.
Right.
I think one nation, one election is a thing which should be implemented.
Right. Stay with us, sir. Gautam, now, as far as the politics part is concerned, that has been dominating the proceedings for the last 24 hours. Today, we are delving into the technicalities, first of all, and looking at the geopolitics, the demography of a country as big as India. We are trying to ascertain whether it suits the general polity or not. There are so many technicalities. There has been law commission reports also that we have here, and we are flashing it on our screens also. In your opinion, for a country like India, which has different priorities, different scenarios altogether happening, conducting elections simultaneously, do you think it keeps the general thread in mind as far as the people's sentiment is concerned?
As you know, this was the case. You had the 2 elections together right up to 1967. And thereafter, because there were some state governments that collapsed or were taken out before their full term was up, it started going a little wonky because, they needed to be elected. Now, that kind of thing is likely to happen again. You're not going to have everybody able to live out their full 5-year term in the states in particular. And if there's a coalition at the center, it could affect the center also. But if you keep that aside, then common sense tells you that this will save a great deal of money. It will provide great continuity. You're not interrupting yourself, even if you are likely to win your next election, most politicians will start thinking about it definitely halfway into their term, and then go for it, more in election mode than in development mode or governance mode. So, if as a general thing, if most of the states are able to last out their 5-year term, and the center likely also to last out a 5-year term, this will work very much better than the present system, which is full of,
Right.
if you like, interruptions.
Right.
The other thing is, quite often these days, a state government is brought down either by movements from the opposition or because of splits in the ruling party or coalition. And that could also create fissures. But normally people, the MLAs, are not keen on going back to the people and going in for another election, if for no other reason that it is very expensive. You've got the anti-defection law, which also gets, its due. You need to have a large number of people before you can defect. All that will stay in place. What is happening is the term is being determined simultaneously. So as such, this is very good. The other thing that is, I'm a little unclear, if it is a matter of a 2/3 majority in parliament, it could happen very soon. But if it is a matter of a 2/3 majority in parliament followed by a 50% vote in all the state legislatures, then you're going to have some amendment to the constitution that says that if some of the states agree, then you go with those, and the ones who don't agree, you leave them out, because you can be sure that the opposition states, which are ruled by opposition parties, will not agree if it is a matter of 50% agree. Now, if that provision can be wiped out altogether, you could see this become reality even before the 24 elections.
Right. Mr. Malhotra, talking about conducting polls is one thing, and then synchronizing the framework is another. Advancement or postponing the election timing in certain states, that's a given, that will happen. Reduction of elections to maybe twice in 5 years, that is a possibility. Conduct of all elections failing due in calendar year together. All these things once again point out to something which is, as of now, in the recent times, very innate to any particular state. So, in the given scenario, what best opportunity or what best method the government can adopt to actually bring all states on the same page, or at least 50% of them?
You see, when I said that in India we had 4 elections simultaneously, center and states, but because of defections, the states started crumbling, and because of the defections, the one nation, one election was almost given a go-by. Now, even after the anti-defection law, even after the abolition of the split provision, even the merger provision is such that defections do take place and parties split. You have seen in Maharashtra, Shiv Sena, NCP, all these governments changing. Therefore, even if there are one election, one nation, one election in the states, the anti-defection law will have to be strengthened much more, so that the splits in the parties or the mergers of the smaller parties are not possible. That is how the government can go for 5 years.
Okay.
Now the governments which have been formed only last year or a year before that will definitely not like that they should be dissolved and simultaneous elections be held with the center. Only the elections which are due in 23, 24, only these states can join and preponing the central elections, the Lok Sabha elections. Some of the states, maybe more than half of the states, may join in simultaneous elections. But what do we do with the remaining states? Let us see what Ramnath Kovind's committee with the experts on it and also the representatives of state legislatures will be consulted. Let us see what possibility they give for those states in which elections were held 2-3 years, only last year or a year before that.
Right. Gautam, now, national elections and state elections, they might be two faces of the same coin, but they are equally different also. The issues are different, the sentiments are different, the topics are different, and obviously, the mood is also different. Considering, a party like, say, BJP, who is in power as of now, what benefits and what losses, if you could share with us, will the ruling party have, considering this comes into picture next year?
The possibility of a majority for the third consecutive term is quite high at this point in time. Most of the polls, most of the analyses indicate that the NDA will have a majority, which means there will be a strong center. If there is a strong center and if a good proportion of the states also are BJP, then all of this will proceed rather smoothly. Now, as far as those states which are not BJP states and are opposed to, this kind of thing in principle because they feel that the BJP will have a advantage by ruling at the center or winning at the center and influencing the outcome in the state, even though the issues, as you pointed out, in the state may be quite different and more localized in a sense.
Right.
So common sense tells you that it's going to take about 2 terms, perhaps even 3, 10 to 15 years to harmonize this across the board. But that does not mean you shouldn't do it, because if you can do it at the center and you can do it in, say, half the states, it is going to be a great help for continuity and provide a lot of focus to the government because it is stable. If, on the other hand, instead of the BJP, a 26-28 member coalition forms the government, it is questionable whether they will last a year, let alone 5. So, because they are very disparate in their thinking, they've only come together in order to oust Modi in particular, and the BJP as well. This is also supported by people who are anti-Modi, anti-India, and the progress it is making, because it worries them that tomorrow India will become less and less controllable. So, in that case, such a law may be very hard to see through because, if the government collapses, where's the question of not having fresh elections? So when former president goes into this with his committee, he'll have to have a lot of exceptions. He'll have to have a lot of codicils. But all in all, I think the government is fairly determined to go through with it. Whether it will go through with it right now, before, because there's only 9 months to the general elections, if they decide to do it, then one of the key times would be to simultaneously do the states which are due to go in for elections and the general elections.
Right.
For a start. Now, it will transform the landscape. And of course, right now it appears to be advantage BJP and the NDA.
Right. Mr. Malhotra, obviously, your experience with the Lok Sabha Secretariat and the powerhouse, if I may say so, where the rules are being made and the intricacies of, upholding the highest orders of democracy is being decided. There are so many aspects to it that comes with one election, one poll, one nation, which is obviously all states and central elections happening together. In cases of, you mentioned about anti-defection law, which is a very moot point of it. If any party or some members leave the party and join someone else, then obviously elections would be incumbent, or maybe something else has to be done. In case of a hung assembly, I'm talking about in terms of central elections, the Law Commission report from 2018 presents 3 options, which generally we have seen being exercised. President or the governor should give the largest party an opportunity to form the government. If unsuccessful, convene all-party meeting to resolve, and if the stalemate persists, mid-term elections may be held. In your opinion, looking ahead, what are the methodologies that this new setup should have to maneuver its way, in a better fashion?
You see, the election issues for the parliament, for the Lok Sabha and the state assemblies are different. Now, there are certain parties which are regional parties, and they have been ruling for the last several decades, whereas the center, the BJP, has not been able to go to the south.
Yes.
Now, when the issues are different, if it is one party government, maybe a Congress formed government or BJP formed government, and they will have certainly more than half, very likely, state governments of that party, it will be okay. There will be no problem. But if the local issues, the state election issues dominate, and you have different parties, and if once at the center, it is a coalition government, as we have seen in 90s and early up to 2004.
Yes.
If it is a coalition government, then the different forms of governments in the states and a coalition government at the center with different election issues, it will really be very difficult. If it is a one-party rule, it will be very smooth. But if it is going to be defections and the defection law is not strengthened in the manner in which you can avoid the defections in the parties, it will of course affect the governance, the joining of several parties, as was said, 20 to 25 parties making a government. And then different parties have different governments in the states. Therefore, there will be fissures and frictions will be there. And it will be difficult. It will be really a task for the Ramnath Kovind committee and the experts and the leaders of the several parties. It will be quite a task to come to a solution where the multi-party government is there at the center or at the states.
Right.
It will really be difficult. But one party government, one party in the states, majority of them, it will be very smooth for finances, for staff, for continuity, for stability. All this will be there.
Right. So simultaneous elections, some advantages, some disadvantages. Will come to the disadvantages part as well. But Gautam, before we play out some more sound bites from different political parties, I wanted to ask you again a politically loaded question this time around. What happened in Maharashtra and what happened in Bihar when Nitish Kumar walked out of the alliance with the BJP, joined hands with RJD? These are two types of defections that happen. And as Mr. Malhotra mentions, that strengthening the anti-defection law is also very important. Likewise, we talk about UCC, then in comes the personal laws also. So this is a bigger ambit of things, and not just on the face of it that the opposition, launching a charge against the ruling dispensation as of now, because it cuts both ways. It is not that it's all hunky-dory for the BJP if one nation, one election happens, or all is doom and gloom for the opposition. So how do you see and how would you justify this particular step, and especially the timing of it?
Well, I think it will work at present because the political configuration you've got. The BJP is positioned to win a majority for the third time. It will have about half or more of the states. There will be some merit seen in this by one party wins. For example, in Tamil Nadu, DMK might well think, this is a good idea. I don't have to worry about opposition for 5 years. Mamata Banerjee may well think the same thing. There will be support from people like the BJD as well. Okay. Now, as far as anti-defection goes, look, it's a pretty strong law as is. You have to have 2/3 of the people wanting to defect in order for it to be legal. But, for example, if you look at Sharad Pawar, he is neither in nor out. He has not decided to form his own. Yeah, he is a clever man who has been in politics in India for decades. He has seen the shortcomings of rump politics, as in the case of Uddhav Thackeray. So he's not saying I'm in, he's not saying I'm out. There is no split as far as he's concerned. He says that quite often. There is no split. So life goes on. So there are many ways to approach this, which are not all, so easy to control from the outside. But like the GST, which was, was a Herculean task to push it through in the first place. When it was first introduced, it was by no means perfect. There are lots of things which were either undertaxed or overtaxed. Over the years, it has proved very effective. The taxation has continuously grown. The revenue collection has continuously grown. And various of the taxes have been rationalized. Several more remain. For example, the vexed business of petroleum. Why is it a state thing? You've got a variety, a variance of almost 20 rupees per litre between one state and another at present, and this is not fair for the citizens, but it is an easy revenue hit for the state. Then, and you've got, but it will be rationalized as the time goes on. The liquor is not part of GST. There's no reason why not.
Those aspects, definitely.
So like that, like I said, over a period of 10 to 15 years, you will iron out all the wrinkles. But that doesn't mean you should do it.
You don't start. Yes, obviously, there is a saying that the longest journey starts with the first step. Unless that step is taken, you wouldn't know what lies ahead. Fair enough, Gautam, fair enough, Mr. Malhotra. Stay with us. As I said, let's listen into some further political reactions that have come up on One Nation, One Election.
लोकतांत्रिक प्रक्रिया नियमों से भी चलती है, और परंपराओं से भी चलती है। इसमें कोई दो राय नहीं कि मंत्रिपरिषद के सलाह पर महामहिम राष्ट्रपति कोई भी कभी भी एक निश्चित समय के बाद बुला सकते हैं सत्र को, और जहां पे तो सत्र चल ही रहा हो, अवसान न हो, तो कभी बुला सकते हैं। परंतु ये परंपरा मैं पहली बार सुन रहा हूं, देख रहा हूं, अभी पढ़ लूंगा, शायद कोई उदाहरण हो। लेकिन रिटायर्ड, मेरा आशय है अपना कार्यकाल पूरा कर चुके महामहिम राष्ट्रपति सरकार के अधीन या सरकार के प्रति जवाबदेह या सरकार के द्वारा गठित किसी समिति के अध्यक्ष बने हों, ऐसा मुझे फिलहाल याद नहीं आता है। आखिर क्यों? क्या एक्स चीफ जस्टिस थे, सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जजेस थे, या किसी और से कराई जा सकती थी? ये जानबूझकर महामहिम राष्ट्रपति को अपने अधीन एक कमेटी का अध्यक्ष बनाना, मैं समझता हूं पहले राष्ट्रपति पद की मर्यादा इन्होंने नष्ट की जब शिलान्यास और उद्घाटन कोविंद साहब को और अब वर्तमान राष्ट्रपति को नजरअंदाज करके खुद प्रधानमंत्री जी ने फीता काट दिया, और अब दूसरी बार इस तरह करके गलत परंपरा डाल रहे हैं।
क्या इम्पोर्टेंट और कोर इशू 2014 से नहीं था? 2023 में याद आ गया जब सत्ता हाथ से जा रही है। मैं आपको एक बात स्पष्ट बता दूं, देश के मुद्दों पे आज एक कमेटी बनी है। मैं उनसे कहती हूँ कमेटी महंगाई पे कब बनेगी, कमेटी भ्रष्टाचार पर कब बनेगी, कमेटी ये जो बढ़ती बेरोजगारी है उस पे कब बनेगी, महिलाओं पे कमेटी कब बनेगी, महिला रिजर्वेशन पे कब बनेगी, कमेटी किसानों के अधिकारों पे कब बनेगी? तो ये सब बाकी सब बकवास है। 3 कमेटी रिपोर्ट्स पहले ही आ चुकी हैं, और वो 3 कमेटी रिपोर्ट्स बहुत स्पष्ट तरीके से कहती हैं कि 5 अमेंडमेंट्स करने पड़ेंगे। 5 अमेंडमेंट्स में लोकसभा और राज्यसभा में 3/4 सबको सहमति होनी चाहिए। फिर ये स्टेट असेंबलीज में जाएंगे, स्टेट असेंबलीज में ये आधे से ज्यादा मेजॉरिटी होगी तब ये पारित होंगे। तो दुनिया को और देश को बेवकूफ बनाना बंद करें।
1 नेशन 1 इलेक्शन, अगर यूपी में हो जाए इलेक्शन, देखिए ये केवल इंडिया मीट जो हो रही थी उसको डिस्ट्रैक्ट करने के लिए बोला गया है। और अगर आपको याद होगा पिछली बार भी जब मीटिंग हुई थी तो उन्होंने अलग से मीटिंग की थी। ये 1 नेशन 1 इलेक्शन केवल धोखा देना है, और अगर 1 इलेक्शन हो जाए पूरे देश में तो हमसे ज्यादा कौन खुश होगा? यूपी में क्या करेंगे वो लोग? अगर लोकसभा के साथ यूपी भी कर दें उससे अच्छा और क्या हो सकता है?
1 नेशन 1 इलेक्शन, इस संकल्पना का हम स्वागत करते हैं। देश में इतने चुनाव होते हैं, उसकी आचार संहिता में दिन बर्बाद होते हैं, पैसा अलग खर्च होता है, लोगों को भी असुविधाओं का सामना करना पड़ता है, और सबसे महत्वपूर्ण यह है कि रिफॉर्म्स का जो एजेंडा है वो पूरे तरीके से डीरेल होता है। इसलिए सारे चुनाव अगर साथ में हो तो देश के विकास के लिए पूरे 5 साल अनइंटरप्टेड मिलेंगे और हमारा देश और आगे जा पाएगा, इसलिए हम इसका स्वागत करते हैं।
Voices from across different political parties expressing their support or dissent against the idea of 1 nation, 1 election. And for those who have just joined us, Mr. G.C. Malhotra, constitutional expert and former Secretary General of Lok Sabha, is there with us, and Gautam Mukherjee, senior journalist, is also there. Mr. Malhotra, yes, you wanted to make a point, and also I would like to ask you on the timing that many political parties are raising.
You see, I feel one of the difficulties will be for this committee, Ramnath Kovind committee, will be not only to decide the modus operandi of the elections, but also to have a fresh look, not only on the anti-defection law, but also on the imposition of president rule, governor-CM relations, center-state relations, distribution of revenues by the Finance Commission. These will be things which will also have to be given a fresh look. As regards the timing, you said, for the BJP, the timing is appropriate. it is almost the opinion of several polls, opinion polls, that BJP is going to have a easy walkover for the 24 elections, the third term. And once when the local issues, the state issues are merged with the central issues, at present the BJP government is very popular world over, and therefore once it gets a popular vote in the 24 elections, it is likely to win many of the states. Almost a walkover will be there. So
Almost a
timing,
walkover.
so far as the BJP is concerned, is very, very appropriate. This is how the first four elections, when the Congress was in full majority, were held simultaneously, and many of the state governments used to have Congress governments in the first four elections. It is only after the defections started that different issues cropped up. And therefore, almost the same situation as in the first four elections will be for the BJP now. And it is very convenient for the BJP to hold such one nation, one poll.
Right. Absolutely. Mr. Mukherjee, talking about what goes around comes around. As Mr. Malhotra points out, obviously the first four elections that happened simultaneously gave decent, credibility and victory to the Congress party, despite having wars also in between. Now, from Mumbai, we are getting to hear that Congress is saying that such session never took place earlier, and the Congress members are saying that they can't understand why the BJP is in a hurry. India Alliance is making an impact, so they are thinking about doing this one nation, one poll now. Politically, how sensitive do you think this issue is? And secondly, could this go in favor or against of the India Alliance as of now, because they have latched onto it and they are using it to target the government?
Well, all the big parties, one-man parties, 10 people, 5 people parties, they are going to be hit hard by anything like this. But as I said, those who are capable of winning the elections, now you look at West Bengal, the onslaught of the center did not manage to dislodge them. Sure, BJP went from 2 seats to 75, which is commendable, but it couldn't unseat the Mamata Banerjee TMC. And it is not likely to be able to do so, given her very strong hold on the population of West Bengal. She may not have any credibility or grip one step outside of West Bengal, but in West Bengal, she's very, very strong. So for these people, this kind of thing is fine. But for the bit parties, it is not. The rumps, the one-man, the NCs, and Uddhav Thackeray rump, all these kind of people are going to be cast adrift. And naturally, since they constitute what I'd say 60 to 80% of the INDIA alliance, they are worried and they are screaming. As for Congress will be left pretty much on its own, and in order to take advantage of this law, they will have to be less fractious. It doesn't make sense when you have, say, 3 or 4 states to join hands with people who want to upturn the apple cart. They are sure that they'll be there for the next 4 years. They may not rule at the center. They may not rule a majority of the states, but if they have 3 or 4 states which they have won with a single party mandate, rather than whenever there's a coalition, like you mentioned Bihar. Now in Bihar, they probably won't agree to this, and good luck to them. But I can't see Congress disagreeing with them without shooting itself in the foot, because it's the only party in the INDIA alliance with some states under its belt, multiple states. Stalin doesn't have that. Mamata Banerjee doesn't have that. Sharad Pawar is a gone case now. So who is there? That is why Rahul Gandhi was preening around hoping to be the prime ministerial candidate. But this puts a spanner in the works.
Right.
Definitely.
We'll have to wait and watch, Mr. Mukherjee, obviously, for the name to come up. But today I felt that Lalu Prasad ji, you know, in a moment of rare candor, almost ended up saying that ki hum log Rahul Gandhi ji ko pura samarthan, and then he changed the course. But I might be reading too much into it. Mr. Malhotra, from the technicalities and the rules and regulations of Lok Sabha's point of view, calling a session, a mid-session after the monsoon session that we had, is this a general procedure, or the rights are clearly defined that it can be done any time of the year?
This has not been done generally, although there is a the constitution mandates that the president can summon the session anytime he desires. That is such a place wherever he wants, and he goes by the advice of the government in power. Therefore, a special session can be held anytime. Normally, there are 3 sessions: the budget session, the monsoon session, and the winter session. The monsoon session has ended only on 11th of August. So this is a special bill that will have to be passed. It might be a constitution amendment bill, and therefore they are trying luck in the new building also this time, having the 5-day session in the new building. Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha will be meeting separately in the 2 chambers. Therefore, there is nothing to stop them to have a special session, although special sessions have been rarely held. Normally, such issues are brought in the normal sessions. But this time, after the G20 summit, immediately thereafter, this session will be there, special session will be there. And with the popularity of the present Modi government is quite high, they are wanting to have advantage with this special session.
Right. Gautam, final word from you, as always. The political pundit in you, and very quickly and succinctly, when are the Lok Sabha elections going to happen? Speculations, some say December, some say early next year. What does your mathematics say?
You know, you have to strike when the iron is hot.
Okay.
They are in a majority government right now. They are likely to be a majority government after 2024, or even if this combined election is preponed. Who knows when such an opportunity will come again? And there is little or nothing the opposition can do about it, because they are quite sure to get 2/3 in both houses as a combined thing. And they are quite sure to get more than about half. Like I said, those parties which normally support the BJP or the NDA from the outside, such as Navin Patnaik's BJD, Andhra Pradesh, are likely to do so again. And those who won't can thrash it out as best as they can. And the law will be implemented, and they will not agree. Good for them.
Right.
But it can be done, and it should be done.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. I really appreciate both of you taking time out and sharing with us the nitty-gritties, the fair possibilities, the arguments in favor, the arguments in against of this one move that I believe, you know, a lot of generations will be watching it for the first time or witnessing it for the first time, should it happen this parliamentary session. Thank you so much, viewers, for actually, you know, staying with us and watching this. The chances, the feasibility of one nation, one election, all about it, and what does it entail to have state elections and central elections, the Lok Sabha elections together. Hope you enjoyed this show. Meanwhile, we'll be taking a short commercial break here. On the other side, we take you to Maharashtra and we bring you a special News9 documentary, The Chhatrapati Chronicles. Enjoy.
इंजीनियरिंग कर रहे हैं क्योंकि सभी लोग कर रहे हैं
कोचिंग इज नाउ स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम ग्रेड 3, 4, 5, 6
कोटा जाने वाली बीच राह में आधे टेस्ट देके हैं सिलेक्शन की चाह में
ऑल इंडिया का बच्चा कोटा जाता है
This rat race is for rats, not for humans. So why should we even be a part of it?
The Rat Race. This and more streaming on world's first news OTT, News9 Plus. Download now.
Akshay Kumar makes his Marathi film debut in Mahesh Manjrekar's Veerat Marathi Veer Daudale Sa. What's inspired Khiladi Kumar to foray into new terrain? Playing iconic Maratha king Shivaji Maharaj, he's jumping on a bandwagon that spells magic on the box office. Why are filmmakers in a rush to chronicle the life and times of Shivaji Maharaj?
Why do we feel the hunger, the need? Why are we compelled to make a film on Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, and that too so many films? For a simple reason, he was the people's king.
So I think there's this herd mentality in the film industry. One film clicks, then there's a line of producers who announce films with similar storylines.
Personality that has not been adequately explored on the big screen.
I think among filmmakers the craze is because the Marathi audience is somehow inclined to seeing films about the life and times of Shivaji Maharaj, and several films in the recent past based on his life or based on some chapter of his life have done well, you know.
Now we see in the last 10 to 15 years that historical subjects have made a remarkable comeback. So here is a personality and a remarkable personality that hasn't been explored in the new era. I think that's the reason a lot of filmmakers are tapping into Chhatrapati Shivaji's life in order to depict it on the big screen and on OTT platforms and other such platforms. One other factor that is also responsible for this series of movies on Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj is that ever since Prime Minister Narendra Modi's dispensation has come in 2014, there have been previously neglected historical figures around whom there has been plenty of discussion, whether it is Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, whether it's Veer Savarkar, whether it's Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj.
The rising number of films on Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj is also directly linked with the current political mood in Maharashtra.
So we have been depending on these stories which are borrowed. Our heroes have been borrowed, our icons have been borrowed. Where are our real icons? Where are our real heroes? It is high time that we go back to our text, our scriptures, our history.
A film with authentic history of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. I am damn sure that it will be one of the biggest hit ever of Bollywood industry.
Shivaji Maharaj's valorization in pop culture began in the 1970s.
Most of the 8 films released in the last 2 years have been successful. Pawan Khend, of course, was a huge hit, but most of the films based on the life of Chhatrapati Shivaji have done well at the box office. So I think this is the primary reason why so many films are being made.
when we talk about the history of India, so very conveniently we are made to forget the Maratha Empire period. Very conveniently. What are we told and what have, as a kid, what have I studied? Okay, there used to be Mughals and then Britishers came. Right? So this is what we have been taught. What a huge lie it is. What a blatant lie and shameless lie it is. So between the Mughals and the Britishers, there was Maratha Empire. And it was huge. It was humongous. It qualifies for being called one of the biggest samrajyas of empires of the time. So that kind of power, that kind of influence which Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj had, probably that is the reason that we want to tell his story, that okay, such a great son of India who was not given his due respect, who was not given his due credit.
He is an icon across social and cultural categories. He is an icon across castes and communities in Maharashtra, and also increasingly across India. When the freedom movement was on, everybody from Mahatma Jyotiba Phule to Lokmanya Tilak to Lala Lajpat Rai depicted him as a hero that Indians needed to look up to when they were fighting their freedom struggle against the British. We know that Mahatma Phule wrote about him. Tilak started the Shivaji Jayanti festival, which was then adopted in states across India, by provinces across India. There came a point where the Shivaji festival became bigger in Bengal than it was in Maharashtra. Firstly, that the depiction of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj in Indian history has not been adequate, and it has also not been correct, because for a long time he was depicted as a leader who may be restricted to a region. At the same time, his vision was not restricted to the Marathi speaking regions. His vision spanned the entire subcontinent, and that is why he focused on the navy. If you combine the defense vessels and the trading vessels, then the vessels of the Maratha Navy during Chhatrapati Shivaji's lifetime come to 700, and he starts trading with West Asia and other places. So how can we say that his vision was restricted to a particular region? Not at all.
I draw from Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj's history is Idam Namam. A person who created Swaraj, which was not existent for 350 years, of these people, his own people, still you'll not find his name on any of his foot. The history should be recreated, history should be told in the most authentic way possible.
People had almost forgotten the history of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj till the social reformist Mahatma Jyotiba Phule and Bal Gangadhar Tilak revived the history in late 19th century. Today, Jai Bhavani, Jai Shivaji is the slogan which is popular, cutting across the political differences. The ruling parties always made it a point to rename iconic building after Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, whether it was Mumbai's railway station, the international airport, or one of the most popular museums. When it came to renaming, the unanimous choice was Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj.
Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj actually imagined and actually conceptualized the complete freedom, which is called 100% freedom, where we have the sovereign state, where we have all the powers, where we can run our country the way we want to. We are not reporting to any king or queen. So that was the dream of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. And the same dream, if you study, the same dream was passed on to the eyes of Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji, Lokmanya, and then Veer Savarkar. So these were the people who first raised the voice and the demand for complete freedom, not a dominion state. So if you ask me, we have a colonial mindset, and that is the reason that even the slogans which we use in day-to-day life, the slogans which are taught to our kids, Jo Jeeta Wahi Sikandar. What is Jo Jeeta Wahi Sikandar? Who was Sikandar? An invader. How can you go on celebrating the villains of your history time and again and not realize that this is wrong? Why not Jo Jeeta Wahi Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj?
Anything on Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, Chhatrapati Sambhaji Maharaj should not be restricted only to entertainment. When we call it, it's a sanskar. ये हमारी माटी का संस्कार है. So this should reach out to youth, this should reach out to public, and they get a lot of inspiration from the great deeds of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj.
BrahMos. Stealthy, lethal, precise. It flies at 3 times the speed of sound and cuts through a warship like a hot knife through butter. China's navy has threatened its neighbors, and they are turning to the BrahMos for protection. The warship killer. This and more streaming on world's first news OTT, News9 Plus. Download now.
देखिए यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड के बारे में तो बाबा साहब अम्बेडकर ने कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली में जो डिबेट हुई ये तो उसी समय लागू हो गया होगा.
At that time, Dr. Ambedkar thought it will be optional. It was never to be imposed.
जो डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल ऑफ स्टेट पॉलिसी है उसके सेक्शन उसकी धारा जो 44 है उसी में इस बात का जिक्र है कि द स्टेट विल एंडेवर टू इम्प्लीमेंट कॉमन सिविल कोड.
Article 44 of the Constitution says that we shall endeavor. So what does it mean? Right now we are not ready. We shall endeavor in some time in future. Nothing has been done over it and no consensus has been built.
Can it be argued that the directive principles of state policy, where Uniform Civil Code exists in Article 44, is bad for Indian citizens? Can the Constitution be bad for a set of citizens? No. It's a package. The Constitution in its entirety has been adopted. You don't have a choice as a citizen to say, I like Part 3, which are fundamental rights. I don't like Part 4, which is directive principles of state policy.